Welcome to the Deep Dive. Really glad you could join us today. We're about to get into a truly powerful piece of historical fiction. It's the short story The Enemy by the Nobel Prize winner Pearl S. Buck.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a classic. You often find it in literature classes around the world, mainly because its themes are just so profound. So our source for this deep dive is a really great detailed review of the story. It's got some insightful excerpts that really pull out the core ideas and characters. Our mission today, to really grapple with the deep moral questions, the ethical challenges that Pearl S. Buck lays out. We want to understand how one person's choice, especially, during wartime, can so powerfully challenge national loyalties.
And what's truly remarkable, I think, is how relevant these questions still feel. Especially when you think about modern conflicts, or even the ethical tightropes professionals walk during global crises. Book really forces us to ask, where do our loyalties actually lie when professional oaths, like a doctor's, crash right into national narratives?
That's such a crucial point. So let's maybe start by grounding ourselves in the basic facts of the story first. The title is simply The Enemy, author Pearl S. Buck. Genre-wise, it's a short story, historical fiction. And the setting is Japan during World War II, a really intense time. Our main character is Dr. Sadao Hoki, a Japanese surgeon. And the core idea, the premise is this. Dr. Sadao and his wife, Hana, they were both educated in America, which is important. They find a severely wounded American prisoner of war. He literally washes ashore right near their kind of isolated home. And this is happening at the height of World War II.
Right. And what's immediately striking here, I think, is how fast that personal value system clashes with, well, what the nation expects. I mean, despite the soldier being the literal enemy, Dr. Sadao feels this intense, almost gut-level pull to treat him. And it's not just his doctor code, It feels like a deeper human compassion just takes over.
But it's not simple, is it? He's not just treating a patient. He's immediately plunged into this incredibly intense conflict, both inside himself and, externally too. His decision, that initial choice to operate, it just sets everything in motion. He's completely torn between his duty to Japan, which expects him to report this enemy soldier, obviously, and his unwavering duty as a doctor. That oath, really, to save a life, any life that's in front of him.
Exactly. And Buck shows so well how that external pressure creates this huge internal turmoil. The sheer weight of deciding has immediate stark consequences, doesn't it? Like his own servants, they just can't handle harboring an enemy. So they leave. They protest by walking out. That isolation for Sadao and Hamnana must have been, just immense.
Oh, definitely. It creates this powerful feeling of being completely alone with this monumental choice. And Hana's role is so key here. She stands by him, yes, but she's not just passively agreeing. She's struggling too. You see her grappling with intense fear, confusion. It really shows the shared burden, the danger of the courageous choice they've made together. You can almost feel the tension in the house itself.
You really can. The psychological tension Buck builds is just masterful. It mirrors that deep inner conflict in the characters as they try to navigate this impossible situation. It's not just about outside threats. It's the war happening inside their own heads and hearts, which, ultimately leads Sadao to do something incredibly audacious, not just save the soldier, but actually help him escape.
And yeah, against all odds, he pulls it off. He saves a man's life and then very quietly, but significantly helps him get away. But beyond that immediate drama, the real lasting power of The Enemy is in the themes, right? The big ideas Pearl S. Buck explores. The first one, the absolute core conflict, has to be humanity versus patriotism. This is where those universal human values just smash right into loyalty to your nation, saving an enemy's life. That's the ultimate example. And it poses that stark ethical question. Is it right? Is it right to save a life even if that person is technically your nation's enemy? And that's not just a question for doctors, is it? It challenges all of us. When does our basic humanity demand we look past us versus them, even when war draws those lines so sharply?
Precisely. And if you connect that to the bigger picture, the story becomes this powerful critique of the sheer inhumanity of war itself. War, inherently, it divides people based on really superficial things like race, nationality, politics. It actively tries to strip away individuality, our shared human connection. And like you said, Sadao and Hana are alone in this. It takes incredible courage to stand against society, against national expectations, just for your own ethics, your conscience. I mean, imagine the isolation, the terror, choosing one unknown life over your entire community's approval, maybe even your safety. That's a monumental weight.
It absolutely is. And Buck brings these struggles to life so vividly through the characters. First, Dr. Sadao Hoki. He's skilled, respected, patriotic,
loyal, yes, all that. But crucially, he's not blind to suffering. He struggles emotionally, you see it clearly, but in the end, he acts from compassion, from his conscience. He really embodies that conflicted individual caught in a world obsessed with war. Then there's Hannah, his wife. She's portrayed as loyal, smart, educated, sensitive. Despite her own shock and very real fear, she supports her husband through these incredibly tough ethical choices. And finally, the American soldier. We often call him Tom, though he's unnamed in the text itself. He really represents that common humanity underneath all the labels, the politics, the nationalities. He's shown as vulnerable, scared, and ultimately just deeply grateful.
That's a great breakdown of the characters. It makes me think, if they hadn't had that American education, that broader perspective, would they have made the same choice? How much did that exposure kind of shape their ability to act with such, unconventional compassion? And speaking of Buck's craft, her writing style is something else. It's so elegant but simple. She doesn't need flashy prose. She focuses intensely on the emotional depth. The narrative feels calm, almost quiet on the surface, but there's this intense undercurrent that just perfectly mirrors the character's inner turmoil. And the visual imagery she uses, especially the sea, the isolation of the house, it really adds to the atmosphere, that feeling of quiet, intense drama.
Yeah, it's those subtle layers that give it such lasting power. So if we boil it down, the core message of The Enemy seems to be that human compassion can, and maybe should, transcend national borders. Your conscience can, and often does, clash with what society expects. The story is ultimately, I think, a call for peace, for understanding, in a world that's always being torn apart by conflict.
And that's where its strengths really hit home. It presents this deep, emotional, ethical conflict that just resonates. Its message feels incredibly relevant today, doesn't it? In our polarized world, it forces you to think about where you draw your own lines. Buck gives us really strong character development. Sadao and Hannah's struggles feel so real, and it's just a thought-provoking, memorable story. Stays with you.
Now, it's fair to mention some things readers sometimes bring up as maybe criticisms or just observations. Some might find the pacing a little slow, particularly if they're geared up for a more action-heavy war story, and the ending the soldier's escape being handled so quietly that might feel a bit abrupt to some people. But for many, myself included, those aren't really weaknesses. They're part of the story's subtle, quiet power.
And that's the real beauty of it, isn't it? The Enemy is this powerful story about moral courage, about love, about basic humanity. It gently reminds us that during wartime, it's empathy and integrity, not hate, that really define us as human heroes. It pushes us to look beyond the labels we put on people.
So what does all this mean for you listening right now? The Enemy really encourages us to think about the power of individual choice, especially when you're up against massive societal pressure, intense nationalism. What would you do in Sadao's position? It's a tough question.
Yeah, it leaves you mulling over how quickly those enemy lines can just dissolve when you're face to face with individual suffering. And how one, maybe seemingly small act of kindness, driven by just one person's conscience, can actually challenge an entire system built on hatred and division. It really makes you question where true loyalty actually lies.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into Pearl S. Buck's The Enemy. We hope it gets you thinking, maybe encourages you to continue exploring complex ideas with us, or even to revisit the story yourself. Until next time.